I'm Leticia Jackson. This is my 13th year teaching. I started teaching in Florida, but 4 years there and came to Tennessee. So I've done the rest of the 9 years here. I've worked in different types of districts. This is actually my first year working in a rural setting, but for 10 straight years, I was in an urban setting working with very diverse populations. So this is the first time that I have not worked in a very diverse population. So it is very new to me. I'm learning. My leadership story is I'm an English teacher, so I've been teaching 7th through 12th grade. The only grade I've never taught was juniors. But I'll explain to you in English terms because I can't help it. I'm an English teacher. So we all know that there's an anti hero. I'm kind of like an anti leader by accident. The anti hero is the hero that ends up being a hero in the end, but never wanted to be a hero. I am the anti leader. Like, I lead sometimes here and there only because people are like, hey, did you know you're really good at this and you should probably do this? And I go, what? No, I'm fine. I'm just going to sit right here and do my own little thing. But instead, my journey has been, and I'm very lucky to have this in my life, but my journey has been people have seen things that I do well and have encouraged me. And then from that encouragement, I've had an opportunity to do something else. And then from that encouragement, I've had another opportunity to do something else. So I am very grateful of the people who've seen these pieces of leadership in me. So I got to the first piece of leadership that I started with was when I was at Hillsborough High School, which is one of the high schools in Nashville that I had started teaching at. The first way that I started my leadership there is I realized when I first got there, Hillsborough was a very unique school for Nashville. It was located in Green Hills, which is the richest, I do believe it is the richest zip code in the Nashville area. So it's predominantly wealthy, houses, a nice Green Hills mall there. Like sometimes if you're lucky, you'll catch Nicole Kidman there drinking coffee at Starbucks. Like that's the place that I was teaching. Unfortunately, though, the way that our public schools were set up is that most of the students who lived in that neighborhood anyway did not go to public school. So for the few that did, which was like 25% of them, they were for the most part in the IB academy. So Nashville had academies at the time. I still think they have academies. And academies are schools within schools where every little portion of the school has a dedication. So the area that I was hired to teach in was the Academy of Global Health and Science. And then there was the IB Academy, there was a business academy as well. So there were schools within schools. The IB Academy was the only academy at Hillsborough that didn't have an actual career aspect. It was a thematic academy. The other ones were related to careers. So that was already unique in itself. The other thing about Hillsborough that was unique is that the IB Academy was located in the front of the school on the top floor and was predominantly white and wealthy. And that included the teachers. Actually, if I remember correctly, when I first got there, all the teachers in the IB Academy were white as well. Very interesting dynamics. And I was in the Global Health and Science Academy, and they stuck me in the back of the school with my predominantly African American and multicultural students. So I remember starting there, and the reason they hired me, and I remember it because my assistant principal, when she was in the interview, she said, "Oh, I love that you've taught in diverse populations because we need people who can teach our students." And she said that multiple times, and that told me uh, that was her euphemism for we need someone to teach our not rich white students because nobody's apparently reaching them at the moment. So, and you could see it in our data. Our data and the test scores kind of showed it. They were being left behind. So they needed somebody to come in and work with a different population of students than the teachers at Hillsborough had been used to at first. So my leadership started there because I didn't know that I was going to be forcing, kind of forcing, but like persuading in the nicest way I could possibly, other teachers who had for many years taught there, not knowing how to reach certain students. I pushed them the whole time. So when I first got there, they said things like, "Oh, our kids don't do homework, so we just don't give homework." I was like, "Oh, really?" And they said, "We used to do summer reading, but they stopped reading, so we're not going to let them. We don't give it anymore." Oh, really? The only people we give summer reading to is the IB Academy. I was like, so basically, we're telling our students we don't actually have any kind of expectations for you, but we do for the IB Academy. Those are the only kids we like make an effort for. And I just said we had to change it. So my very first year there, I was like, we have to change this, and we have to have high expectations for all of our students. And I think we need to go ahead and make this explicit, and we need to be equal throughout, so that all of us can be working towards the same goal. And when I first got there, my students said, "You must think you're an IB teacher because I got into this academy because it's easy." And I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, they hired me, so you're out of luck." And that's how we started it. So the very first year I was there, I ended up being a level 4 teacher because I was able to take my population of students and push them through, and they grew dramatically. The next year, I had done so well that my principal said, "Hey, do you want to be the department head?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Well, you kind of like had all these ideas and kind of persuaded people, so you should probably be the department head." So there I was, the department head. Again, other people seeing things in me and just kind of pushing me to actually take the role of leader, because otherwise I was just going to sit in the background, kind of persuading people to do things that's best for kids. But that part gave me that leadership. And then for the next 3 years, we topped the district for English 2, which was my subject, and English 1. So we did really actually improve the literacy scores for all of our students. And that was really important to me, to make sure that we had represented all of our kids appropriately, and that all of our kids understood that they could learn and they were going to learn, and we expected that they would. From there, I was lucky enough to have, well, first of all, I have a husband who is a principal, and he pretty much pushes me into leadership roles all the time. He says, "Hey, you know you're good at this, you should do this." And so he got me into SCORE, which is a teacher fellowship program here in Tennessee. And first of all, it was the best experience I've ever had. They gave me the confidence that I never knew I had to do things that I never knew I could. And where I would have never thought that I could talk to legislators or senators, I would have never had the guts to do it before. They put me in front of them and they were like, "Guess what? You're going to be doing it today." I was like, "Oh, okay." So they kind of forced me and pushed me into that. And they were like, "But you're really good at it, so you should go and do this." And then when I got into SCORE, I was lucky enough to get to be a part of Center for Teaching Quality, because they got SCORE got me connected there. And I did a wonderful writing workshop session over the summer once, and it was the most amazing experience. Like, I have to say that the coolest part about it was I got to meet teachers from all over the United States who were fabulous teachers. So we could have conversations that were very philosophical. We could have conversations about having high expectations for kids and what did you do? Or tell me your story. And I learned so much in just 3 days. And from there, I came back to Tennessee super excited and energized, only to get a call from someone in the district asking if I wanted to be part of the education committee for my district, because uh, we were getting a new superintendent. So then there were only two teachers chosen, and there were 50 people, but there were only two teachers chosen, and I was one of the teachers. And so I got to make decisions for the superintendent about teacher retention, which was a huge piece of that was part of one of my leadership goals, was to keep our teachers, um, because we're losing so many, especially in urban districts. You lose lots of teachers. The harder the school, the harder it is to keep your teachers. From there, I went to MLK Magnet Middle School, and they hired me. And they said, "We're hiring you because our seventh grade scores have been a 1 for the past 3 years." I was like, "Okay." And they said, "But we need that to change." And I said, "Okay." I was there for 1 year in level 5. So they were like, "That's why we hired you." I was like, "I know, that's what it right there says." So here I am at an academic magnet where the seventh grade had historically not been served accurately. And so my purpose was to again lift up the expectation and let the students understand like this is how we transition from your previous school to an academic magnet so I could prepare them adequately for the high school level. Because once they got to high school, the amount of rigor did definitely ramp up. So, again, another story of I'm just really good at growing students, literacy growth. So that's why I've been able to maneuver myself through the leadership thing. Is not only am I the person who can say I value students, I value expectations. I'm also the type of person who comes in with a resume and says, here are the things that I am very good at. I like to build relationships with students, and I like to tell them that if they trust me, I promise they'll learn all the things that used to be difficult before, and we're going to be better today than we were yesterday, and we're going to be better next week than we were last week. So that's how my leadership has grown. And then something crazy happened last year because I had done so great with our gains. My principal came to me and said, "Would you like to be our literacy coach? There's a literacy coach opening next year." And I went home to my husband, and he's like, "You'd be crazy not to take it." And I was like, "Yay, I'm going to take it. This is so cool." And I did it for the first 2 months. And I came home to my husband, and I was like, "This stinks a lot, like really bad." You think like I'm out of the classroom, it's low stress, like I should be excited, and this is like a job where I'm moving up, woo! And it seems so exciting because everybody told me congratulations. My mom was like congratulations, and everybody I told was like that's amazing. But then every day I came home feeling just unfulfilled. It was terrible, and I just want you to know that like kids are more receptive to the things that you tell them than adults. So teaching kids was something that gave me hope and something that gave me some creativity. And teaching adults was a lot more difficult because even when I told them these are research-based practices, and I promise if you do this in your classroom, it'll help your students, they still didn't care. It was like I had told them to go step in dog poop. You would have thought that I had said that, but I didn't. I was trying to encourage them to teach better, but you would have thought I had said other things for the way that they took what I said. So it's really difficult to teach teachers, is what I found out for a whole year. And I started this year in that same role. Still, my husband encouraged me. He said, "Sweetie, just try it for another year. Maybe it'll be better the second year." And I went through it for a month and then said, "I cannot do this. I just can't. I can't do it. I cannot do it." And by that time, my district would not transfer, so I couldn't get out of that role as a literacy coach unless I left the district. So that is what I did. I left the district. I went to Murray County. I went county south, or 2 counties south. Um, so I had to do it. I'm back in the classroom, and I'm telling you right now, it is amazing being back with kids. So you think getting out of the classroom is maybe the best way to do the leadership thing. And sometimes you find out that leading from the classroom is just absolutely the most wonderful thing. I'm making a big impact with these kids because my kids right now, who are again from a rural setting, haven't been pushed the way that they need to be pushed. So again, I came in and they were like, why do we have a quiz? Why do we have a quiz once a week? Or why do we have to read this? And I'd say, because you're supposed to. And that's what you're expected to do. And we're going to learn. And they always say things like, oh, I wish I had the other teacher. And for the first 3 weeks that I was there, parents were calling, asking kids to be moved out of my class to the other sixth grade English teacher. But my principal wasn't going to have that because we're not going to play good cop, bad cop. But my goal, and maybe if you keep in touch with me, we'll see how I do. My goal is to raise their literacy growth too, because only 17% of my kids are proficient in reading right now, and that is unacceptable. So I've got to get my kids at a place where I feel comfortable that they can move on and progress to the next grade level. And I've got to get them reading well because they can't go to high school because that's when it gets really difficult if they cannot read. So that is my struggle right now, but I'm leading from the classroom. My principal is really cool because within the first month of me being here at the new school, A few other teachers had voted on me being a PLC coach. So now I am part-time PLC coach. So people can come during my planning period and meet with me. People can come after school and meet with me. I run PDs for our school. So whenever we have PD days, I normally run them. And then also, I will take a day from the classroom and run PLCs for our teams throughout. So I am still in the classroom. And again, I'm just really grateful that other people are seeing things in me and saying, hey, that person would be good at this. So now I'm a PLC coach, which I feel like is the best balance for me to lead, help the faculty, but also still teach kids who, again, have wonder in their eyes and have not been jaded and are very optimistic and believe you when you say, like, we can do this. So I love that about my current leadership journey. I think I've covered everything.